to our topic of this half hour. Of all the doctrines that have troubled brethren over the past 50 years, perhaps the weirdest of them all is that which is known as realized eschatology or covenant eschatology or Max Kingism, as many of us would know it by. In short, as has already been presented by several of the speakers this morning, this afternoon, it avers that the second coming of Christ, the final resurrection of the just and the unjust, and the final judgment all took place in AD 70 at the destruction of Jerusalem. Now, this concept was first introduced in the denominational world in 1787 by a man by the name of James S. Russell. But it was introduced to those in the Lord's Church in 1971 when C.D. Beagle presented this view to a number of preachers at a preachers' gathering in Ohio. Beagle's son-in-law, Max King, also accepted this teaching and began promoting it. He popularized this movement, this doctrine, with the writing of two books, The Spirit of Prophecy in 1971 and The Cross and the Parousia of Christ in 1987. Because of this teaching, as I've already mentioned, is sometimes referred to as Max Kingism. King had two very prominent debates, one oral and one written. He had a debate in the early 1970s with the late Brother Gus Nichols, and then he had a written debate in the late 1970s with Jim McGuigan. And then Tim King, his son, tried to take up the mantle of leadership in the movement, but for some reason or another, never quite reached the pinnacle, if you want to put it that way, that his father achieved. And so the leadership then was assumed by Don K. Preston of Ardmore, Oklahoma. He has assumed today de facto leadership among those who adhere to this doctrine. He has pushed that doctrine, the 80-70 doctrine, from Ardmore through his website, through the books that he has written, and it's a plethora of books that he's written on the subject, printed material, and an annual event in Ardmore that he calls the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, or PPW. I'll say more about that in a moment. Now, while ostensibly still affiliated with the Churches of Christ, Preston no longer preaches regularly, and the reason why he stepped down as the preacher there is interesting. We won't go into that for space and for time's sake, but devotes all of his time and his efforts in more ecumenical directions in promoting his doctrine. Well, in March of 2016, I was contacted by a preacher shortly after our lectureship at Faulkner, inquiring whether I would be interested in debating Preston and Ardmore concerning this doctrine. As it turns out, this preacher contacted first Scott Gleaves, who is the Dean of the College of Biblical Studies at Faulkner, my immediate boss, and is also a very, very close friend of mine. And he asked Scott, do you have anybody on the faculty at Faulkner that would be willing to discuss the 80-70 doctrine? He said, David Hester would. I said, thanks. I really appreciate it. But as it turns out, I did initially agree. Contact was made with Preston through a close friend and brother in Christ, Sean Mathis. As many of you, Sean, know, possibly Sean's father was Larry Mathis, a longtime gospel preacher. Sean himself has preached in the past. He is an experienced businessman. He and his wife attended a congregation in Nashville, Tennessee. He negotiated the terms of the debate and did an outstanding job in finalizing the agreement that was signed and nailing down the propositions to be discussed. Thus it was that Preston and I agreed to a two-night debate on July 14th and 15th of last year in connection with the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. The propositions were as follows. Resolved, the Bible teaches that the second final coming of Christ and the intended resurrection of the just and the unjust occurred at the time of the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. Don K. Preston affirmed, and I would deny. Then resolved, the Bible teaches that the second final coming of Christ and the intended resurrection of the just and the unjust is yet future and will occur at the end of time. I affirm, Preston denied. In preparation for the debate, there were a number of fellow gospel preachers who gave me assistance, to which I was thankful. There were several who had debated this subject in the past, including those who had debated Don Preston, who allowed me access to their notes, which was invaluable. And in addition to that, I obtained 3 sources of information, which I cannot disclose because there's going to be another debate coming up, and I don't want Preston to know where I got my material. But there were 3 sources of information that was provided by a preacher friend, which proved to be crucial in putting together the lines of argumentation. Many of you know Brother Phil Sanders from the Search for the Lord's Way broadcast. He is a good friend of mine as well, fellow gospel preacher, and he lives only an hour from Ardmore. And he agreed to serve as my moderator and sit at my table. And that was one of the best decisions made. He was sharp as a tack, as I knew he would be, in coming up with responses during the heat of the debate. Kyle Massengale, another fellow preacher who works with the Madison congregation in Huntsville, Alabama, also agreed to give me assistance. And so all of this counsel, all of this advice was welcome and was desperately needed. During the preparation period, an item of interest caught my attention. On his website, Preston posts a series of videos that he calls Morning Musings. In them, he promotes and pushes his doctrine. Now, the topic that was of interest was on the Lord's Supper. You see, the advocates of the 80-70 doctrine have an insurmountable problem. If the second coming took place at the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, the one is hard-pressed to explain 1 Corinthians 11:26. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Lord's death till He come. Now, either the 80-70 advocates take the supper and thus contradict their own teaching, or not take it altogether and violate a clear command of Paul, or else change the law of Christ. Preston chose the latter option. In his video series on the subject, he claimed we cannot know how often the early church ate the supper. He also said that while it is appropriate to take the supper, we don't have to take it today. Preston said, while once I believed and taught that the supper must be taken every first day of the week, he said, I don't believe that now. He then claimed that the mention of the supper in 1 Corinthians 11 was not intended to be understood as advocating a universal practice, but only for Corinth. I knew all of that would serve as a major point of emphasis during the debate. Contrary to Don's assertion, we can know how often the supper was taken from the book of 1 Corinthians itself. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 11:26, as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup. When did the Corinthian brethren come together? 1 Corinthians 16:2 tells us on the first day of every week. Look at the Greek text and you'll find the first day of every week, or even the NIV, as much as I don't like the NIV. In this one verse, it gets it really pretty much dead on. Every Sunday, it says. That's accurate. Well, in the same day, it was when the church of Troas met in Acts 20, verse 7. They came together to break bread. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 1:2 to the church of God that is in Corinth, to those sanctified in Christ Jesus, called to be saints, to gather with all those who in every place call upon the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, both theirs and ours. So contrary to Don's assertion, we can know not only when the supper was taken and how often, but to whom it applies. Everyone living today. The language of 1 Corinthians 1:2 is unmistakable. Fact remains, till He come, in 1 Corinthians 11:26, is a death blow to the 80-70 theory. The Lord is yet to come, and we are still to take the supper. Now, during the time that I was in Ardmore for the debate, there's a lot of interesting things that took place. Now, in the run-up to the debate, the day before, I decided to utilize what Bugs Bunny called strategy. You're familiar with that? For a month prior to the debate, intentionally, I did not shave. Now you think, what in the world does that have to do with the debate? My wife could not stand this. She said, when are you going to shave? I said, I'll tell you. Well, the reason why I did this, and this is taking the hotel room in Ardmore. The reason why I did that is because Don Preston had never met me before. All the guys that he had debated prior to this were academics, for lack of a better term, and they were discussions. You present your speech, I present my speech, we'll sell our books and go home. It wasn't going to happen this time. So I grew out the beard and mustache for about a month, let my hair go, and then met him, by the way, in the lobby of the hotel. He said, you need some sleep. I said, yeah, I know I do. Within 2 minutes after I took that picture, I went and shaved this stuff off. The reason why I did that is to get him more relaxed than he ought to have been, and not to expect what was coming. Well, this was the Ardmore Convention Center where the debate took place. As I mentioned, this gathering, the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend, was more ecumenical. The vast majority of those who came were not members of the Lord's Church. They're from various denominational backgrounds. But nevertheless, Phil Sanders and I were both treated with great courtesy. And we didn't have anything to complain on a personal level from the way we were treated all through the debate. We returned that treatment in kind, as we should have. We were shown much hospitality. And as you can see from these pictures, this is the lobby of the convention center, and then this is where the debate took place. And right up there below that screen that you see in the back wall of that room, that is right where we stood and had our two-night debate. Even though we did not have any animosity toward each other personally, no reason to have it, we still went at it, for lack of a better term, during the 2 nights of the debate, which, well, it should be. This is the picture of the Lone Grove congregation right outside of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Lone Grove is served faithfully by a brother in Christ by the name of Coogan Collins. You may be familiar with Coogan Collins and the work that he does in video sermons on YouTube and the work that he does with that congregation. He is a very sharp young man. He gave us needed support and personal encouragement. He opened up the use of the Lone Grove building for us to utilize to study and to rest and to be able to prepare for both nights of the debate. And he is doing a great job with that congregation. Well, 2 things were immediately apparent as the debate progressed. First, Preston did not define his proposition. The first rule of formal debate, and we signed these rules prior to the debate, we both agreed to them, is, quote, the terms in which the question in debate is expressed and the precise point at issue should be so clearly defined that there could be no misunderstanding respecting them. Beginning with his first affirmative speech, Don did not follow that rule once. He never defined his proposition. Now, I made sure in my responses that that would not go unnoticed. He later said, out of frustration, I didn't want to bore the audience with defining the proposition. Yet, in past debates, both written and oral, he had defined his propositions many other times. Well, I said to Phil Sanders at one point during the debate and said this publicly, if this had been a collegiate-style debate with judges, he would have been disqualified immediately because he didn't follow the rules. But a more important point, almost from the start, Don claimed that the law of Moses was in place with God's approval alongside the law of Christ for 40 years until AD 70. That was an amazing assertion. Brother Beals did a fabulous job in exposing how that is patently false. And there are many, many reasons that we could give to show why that assertion is wrong. But here's one. Don's doctrine teaches that spiritual adultery was scriptural from the day of Pentecost to AD 70. Now, Paul says that Christians AD 70 were joined to Christ and not to the law. Romans 7, 1 through 6 blows his assertion out of the water. To be joined to a husband and to be married to another, according to Paul in Romans 7, involved one in adultery. If one is discharged from the law of the husband, one is free to marry again, and this marriage does not involve adultery. To be joined to the old covenant, the old law, and to be joined to the new covenant, joined to Christ, involves one in spiritual adultery. Before one can be joined to Christ, one must be discharged from the law, Romans 7, 2 and 6. And according to Paul, Christians were already discharged from the law, having died to that wherein we were held, Romans 7, 6. They were made dead to the law through the body of Christ, Romans 7, 4. The death of Christ was involved in the removal of the law. That must be emphasized whenever one is discussing these matters with a rock-solid AD 70 adherent. For Preston's doctrine to be true, for the AD 70 covenant eschatology scheme to be true, one has got to redefine words, phrases, and passages of Scripture. Now, as I was studying up for this debate, I was thinking, what hermeneutic do they use? What approach to interpretation of Scripture do they utilize? And I was racking my brain thinking about it and asking fellow preachers what they thought, and then it hit me. Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. You're familiar with Through the Looking Glass, Alice in Wonderland? You may know it better as. You remember that Alice is going through the looking glass, and in this fantastic scene, she comes across Humpty Dumpty. You remember Humpty Dumpty sitting on the wall? Well, that's where he's sitting when she meets him. And so they get into a discussion. And that conversation immediately goes nowhere. Humpty Dumpty is using words very differently from Alice. After she challenges him, he gruffly says, "When I choose a word, it means what I choose it to mean, nothing more or less." That's it.